Good day, grade 12. Today we will be focusing once again on English first additional language. Obviously, paper 3, like I said in our previous sessions, is so important. So we will continue with questions from section B and the text in section B, and especially the formats. It's important that you get the formats correct. You see, your format contributes to your content mark. And if you have things wrong in your format, it impacts on your content mark. Once again, just the instructions given to you, please pay particular attention to 120 to 150 words. Do not exceed, but please also do not write less than 120 words. You have more than enough time, 40 minutes to be exact. Utilize the time to ensure that you, at the end, get the best marks possible. Remember, this question paper is written last. And by this time, you are so exhausted and tired of the examination, and you just want December to start. But let me remind you, it is the question paper which is going to either give you that A or just give you a mediocre mark. So please, grade 12, utilize the time, spend your time on this question paper, and I can promise you, you will get the best marks possible. So what does paper 3 require in section B? It requires, like I said the last time, selecting one topic with familiar format. I would not attempt a CV and a cover letter if I see there's an informal letter in the question paper. Why? Because the format on my informal letter is so much easier. But I'm more familiar with writing a letter. I'm more familiar with things such as a dialogue or a speech. Attempt things which are familiar to you. And use the correct format. Always use the correct format. Address the topic or issue in the topic directly. Therefore, you need to analyze the topic. You cannot go into the exam and think to yourself, I'm just going to write this. I'm going to wing this. You're not going to wing this. You need to know all the formats because you have no guarantee, and neither do your teachers and neither do I today, know which questions will be in the paper. So know your formats. Language usage is important. Very, very important. So stay away from using language which is not applicable in the question paper. In your instructions, it tells you, write in the language in which you are being assessed. So move away from any other language and only focus on English. And if it does happen that you cannot get to the English word, think more, think more, think more. Or change the word, use a different word then, but do not use another language in the text, whether it's the essay or section B or C, right? And then, like I said the last time, fart, my children, fart. Focus on the format. Focus on the audience. Focus on your register. Is it formal or is it informal? And if it is formal, my tone is going to be formal. If it's informal, my tone is going to be informal. So farting is natural. You need to ensure that you farted, but please, grade 12, don't fart loud in the hall. Fart to yourself. Fart for your paper 3, right? So let's today look at our dialogue or the interview. So we note it's exactly the same format for both, but there's a difference. But let's first focus on what it tells us. A dialogue or an interview is a conversation between two people or more. Where will I derive that from? From my topic. If the topic says you are having a conversation with your parent discussing your matric farewell, the topic said a parent, not parents. So mom cannot speak and dad at the same time. It's one parent. You only make use of one voice. The format, once again, is important. So note your format, right? When we read My Children, My Africa, what do we see? We see Mr. M. And then we see a colon, Mr. M speaks. We see actions there. We see Tami speaking. It's important that we stick to the dialogue format. So it's important that you know the format of the dialogue. Always address the topic, very important. And when you address the topic, you need to conclude it. You cannot leave the dialogue hanging and we don't know because it seems like you didn't know. So it's important that you conclude the dialogue, even if you just say, thank you, Mom, for understanding. So please pay special attention to small things like this, because small things are going to give you big marks. Right, so when we look at the format, the very first thing you need to do, you need to sketch a scenario or a setting. So if I ask you to have a conversation with a parent of yours to discuss the matric farewell, you cannot tell me in the kitchen with Mom. That's your scenario. What are you doing in the kitchen with Mom? Why would you be in the kitchen with Mom? You need to tell me. Having a conversation with Mom, discussing my matric farewell. Why? Because that is derived from my topic. It has nothing to do with you being in the kitchen or being in the living room. That's irrelevant. It's about the topic. So please, grade 12, stick to the proper setting derived from your topic. We note the names are placed on the left-hand side, always, and after that we indicate a colon after each name. For example, I have my setting there, so I'm going to state what my setting is, right? And then I will draw a line, and now I'm going to indicate John, my colon. We note when we're in the lower grades, you drew a line so that you could differentiate between this is the speaker, this is what is being said. So you do that then if you are comfortable with it. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to leave a line between the speakers. Why? Because the next line indicates that Mary is speaking. So now Mary is going to speak. So what is Mary saying? So I can differentiate. But if that is John alone, and there's a long text, we note it's only John speaking. The next one tells us actions are placed in brackets before words are spoken. So John, moving. So we know he's moving. So while he's speaking, he's moving. Where? You've already told us where he's moving. You already give us the setting, the scenario. So we know where he's moving. So let us look quickly at the dialogue topic that is provided to us. And please, grade 12, stick to the format, then this will be easier. If I know this, I can answer this. On their way to school, two friends find a wallet with a large amount of money. One wants to keep the money and not return the wallet to the owner. But the other is against the idea. So you now need to take this topic and look at what it says. Write the dialogue that takes place between the friends. Include a brief scenario, like we said there, or context, or setting before the dialogue. So obviously we have two friends who differ in opinion about the money. So we need to have a proper conversation. So if John and Mary is having the conversation, Mary is going to say, I really feel we need to return the wallet or find out who the owner is of the wallet. But John says, no, Mary, let's use the money, or let's wait, let's keep the wallet, and then we will see if anybody claims for it. A conversation needs to take place. And then I can end off either with someone agreeing. So Mary says, I understand what you're saying. Let's keep the money, let's use it. Or John says, no, we're going to use the money. And then Mary says, I really feel like we should return. And John changes his mind and John says, okay, I understand what you're saying. It is obviously not who we are because we are friends. So we need to be on the same page. So we are going to give back the wallet. We are going to return the wallet to the rightful owner. Obviously, grade 12, I'm concluding that dialogue. It's important. But when I look at the interview, I must understand that the interview differs. Because in the interview, there's a question being asked, whether it is about skills or whether it's about abilities, whether it's an interview between a company who advertised the position and you have been called for an interview, or the school principal who's called you in for an interview because you're still grade 7 and now you're coming to the high school, they're interviewing you. You need to understand questions are being asked in that interview. But now, if I'm in an interview My conversation is formal. And so is my tone. But if it's between my friend, it's going to be informal. So I'm going to use informal language for my friend to understand. Staying away from words such as mos and use, because those are not English words. Please understand that, right? Then, grade 12, the obituary. Now here comes a problem with the obituary. And why I say a problem? If you are Afrikaans home language and you do Afrikaans first additional language, you are taught to write a huldeblyk. Now a huldeblyk is read or said at a funeral, correct? Yes, it's read and said at a funeral. That is a huldeblyk. An obituary is not a huldeblyk. A huldeblyk in English is called a eulogy. Please do not confuse the two. So when you're going to deliver an obituary, it would be nowhere. Why? Because an obituary is published. Because I'm informing people of the death of someone. But the eulogy, I'm going to read it at the funeral. But there are similar things I can derive from the eulogy and place in my obituary. For example, biographical details of the deceased. But please do not confuse the two. It is not the same thing. So let's look at the obituary. It is a notice or informing of the passing of someone known by the target audience. A topic might tell you it was a well-known community member. It could have been a celebrity. So you need to focus on that analysis of the topic, because that is how you're going to know who the target audience is. It provides information on the deceased. We look at things such as the cause of death and funeral arrangements. And when I speak of things such as my cause of death, I'm going to utilize euphemisms. I'm not going to say, John died on the 12th of May. John sadly passed on the 12th of May. I need to use my euphemisms. So it's a softer tone that you're going to use when writing the obituary. Always written in the third person. It is you reporting that the person is passed on. It cannot be first person. I cannot write, I passed away on the 12th of November 2012. I was blessed to have 6 sisters and 12 brothers. Can I write my own obituary, grade 12? Actually, you can. But how do you know when you're going to die? How do you know how you are going to die? So please refrain from using first person. You cannot write your own obituary. Maybe the eulogy is, but please, let us not do things such as that. Let's stick to what we need to do, right? Formal tone is used, please, grade 12. Formal tone, this is going to be published, whether it's in the newspaper, magazine, it's going to be published. Lately, what do we do? When we need to inform people of someone has passed, we make use of social media. But still, I need to make use of formal language and a softer tone, because I'm informing people that someone has passed on. So please pay special attention to this, right? Your format should include surname and name or names of the deceased. Now, names of the deceased can be as follows. I could be Johnson, right? So my surname I'm placing, I don't have to place the comma, but Johnson, Bradley, or let's rather change this. Let's make it a female. And then we use the name Johnson, Mary Johnson. I don't know, Mary is very prevalent today, I don't know what's up with Mary, but Mary Johnson. So when I look at the names of the deceased, but Mary was known as Mary, that's how we know her. So we're not going to add a nickname for Mary. She's Mary Johnson, but she was married. So I can include Mary's maiden surname. So I'm going to include and say Mary's maiden surname was Jack. So I've included her maiden surname because not everyone knows who Mary Johnson is. But they can recall Mary Jack because they were in primary school 29 years ago. So obviously they don't know Mary Johnson. They don't know she got married because people might have moved away, people living in the Eastern Cape, and now I'm living in the Western Cape, and I don't know whether the person got married or not because we were not in contact on social media. Very important now, date of birth, date of death. Please, grade 12, if I'm born on the 18th of March, 1994, then obviously I cannot die before 1994. So my date of death has to be now. Include dates such as, and say the following. So now I would include the 14th of September, 1990, pardon, you see there, my mistake, 2019. I cannot want to write an obituary on someone of the community, and then we tend to go for someone who was very strong in our community, President Nelson Mandela, and then we want to write that he passed away in 2013. Grade 12, let's focus on things currently. And even if you write about Nelson Mandela, change the date then, because we are in 2020, but you want to write about 2013. Those are small elements that contributes to it, right? So please pay attention to that. Birthplace. You mentioned Mary was born, like I said, in the Eastern Cape, right? So I can mention places in the Eastern Cape and state there. She was born in Umtata in the Eastern Cape. To her parents, Mary Magdalene and Peter John. Obviously, I've mentioned them, which means when I get to this part of key survivors, I'm going to mention names. For example, there it says Mother Doris, Father John. Cause of death, grade 12. And here I want us to just stop quickly. You must understand that an obituary is a very serious piece. You are informing someone or people that someone close to them or someone they knew has passed on. Cause of death, if someone was murdered, if someone was in a car accident, I'm going to say tragically passed on. I cannot say just died or died in a car accident. It's not necessary to say that tragically passed on. Please pay particular attention to those things, because this is, in so many words, a sensitive piece that you are writing. So please consider the fact, even though you are writing for your paper 3 and it will just be marked, you must understand where farting comes in, because it has to focus on the audience, the register, and the tone. There's no point in I've got everything correct in my format, but those 3 I'm missing out on, and now I'm going to lose out on marks. Key survivors. I'm going to mention who he or she leaves behind. And please, if you never mentioned that Mary got married, how can she now have a husband? You need to mention that she got married. So where can I mention that? After I've mentioned birthplace. I can mention those things of her life. I'm going to focus on details of the service or services, funeral arrangements. I cannot say the funeral is going to be at the Methodist Church. Grade 12, which province, which city, where is it going to be held? Which street? I must provide proper information. So street address is important. Landmarks are important. On the corner of. So I'm going to focus on those things. The date of the service or funeral arrangements. The time that I'm going to provide there. Very important. And then if your topic asks you to pay tribute, it's important. Pay a tribute to the deceased. Honor this person's life. Please, you need to focus on that. So we move on. Let's practice. A learner in your class has passed away. The principal of your school has asked you to write an obituary paying tribute to him or her. Now, grade 12. Very important. Don't think this is now a speech. Now you understand why I said at the beginning, please do not think that this is a eulogy. Because it happens that you now think because the principal asked you, you're going to now deliver a speech to the whole school. It's not going to work like that. It is a piece you could be writing possibly that the principal is going to include in the school's newsletter or in the school newspaper for the learners. It's important, grade 12, that you focus on those things. So when I practice, I note that the learner was in my class. It's a fellow classmate. So what am I going to look at planning? It was a classmate, right? This person was in my class. So I'm going to focus on my grade. I'm going to mention that this person was in this particular grade. That is what I derive from it. It only says in your class has passed away. So now, cause of death. Do I have to include it? No. But I can say sadly passed away. Why? Because it is always sad when a child passes on. I'm not saying it's not sad when our adults pass on, but it is sad when a child passes on. So sadly passed on. I do not have to include the proper cause of death, right? So then I'm going to include such as things such as of this person. So this person, I identify, for example, was a girl, right? So she passed on there. So now what do I derive from this girl? What do I take from her? She was a strong leader. She was in the debating team. She was a prefect, right? All of this I can take from this girl. I'm going to mention this, and there I'm going to pay tribute to her. As a school community, we are going to miss a strong leadership. We are going to miss the initiative she used to take when planning things for our school. So it's important that I can answer the whole question and not parts, but the whole question. And that, grade 12, is what you need to focus on for the obituary. Our last focus for today is the speech. And here, grade 12, you've, for this year, already had to deliver a speech to your teacher. Whether it was an informal one and whether it was a formal one. Focus on the following. Where will you present it? Would it be, like I said earlier, at a baptism, a 21st celebration? And if it is at a 21st celebration, is it a formal celebration or an informal one? If I look at it's a matric farewell party, is it a formal one? Is it an informal one? So if it is formal, my teachers will be there. I'm going to acknowledge them in my speech. To whom would it be? Who's the audience? Is it, in this case, a wedding anniversary or a wedding itself? So my audience is family and friends, right? If I look at my purpose, obviously I'm going to derive this from where it would be. What is my purpose? Am I the best man? Am I the maid of honor? Am I the uncle at the baptism or the godfather? Am I the father of the bride? Those are the things I need to focus on in my speech. Or am I the head prefect speaking to my peers? Those are the things I need to derive from this. And please, formal or informal gives me, derived from thought, my register and my tone. Pay attention to that, formal or informal, and the style you will use. Would it be serious? Or will there be some sort of humor? Will you be able to make a joke? So you need to derive from that what you are going to present. So I would start, for example, let me place myself at a wedding and I'm the best man. So I'm going to say, the family and friends, because I'm acknowledging the fact that that is my audience, the family and friends of Mr. and Mrs. Adams. Good evening to you all and welcome to their wedding celebration. So we note already where it is taking place. It's a wedding celebration and I'm acknowledging the fact that it is a wedding of Mr. and Mrs. Adams. And further into my speech, obviously I can consider the fact my style I'm going to use could be obviously humoristic, but at the same time, it can also be very serious. Because when I start off, I can say things such as, I can only but give the two of you advice and tell you that the two of you are in this marriage and you need to make God the center of it all. And if it feels as if the marriage is becoming stormy, automatically grade 12, who do you consult? God. Not family, but God. There's a seriousness of it. And if I need to bring in humor, then I say things such as, they never wanted to be together. It's because of me. The things I did. I ensured they got together. Focus on elements which are small, but can contribute to the speech. And always acknowledge the fact that this speech is 150 words long. Do not lie and write 100 words and think we are going to accept it. You need to pay special attention to every aspect mentioned here to write your speech. Writing a speech, you need to practice it in your mind because you need to tell yourself, how am I going to present this? And our last slide tells us today, practicing is important. The cliche, practice makes perfect. I'm of the opinion, grade 12, practice makes permanent. So the more I'm going to practice my topics, and I'm going to practice my formats, and I'm going to practice my farting, I'm going to perfect it. And because I'm going to perfect it, I'm going to know there's permanency. So it's stuck in my head. I know the dialogue requires this. And so does the letters, and so does the obituary and the speech, and whatever is going to happen in section C, because I've practiced. And the only way for you to practice is to know your formats and to take from past papers. DBA has made it available to you, including the memo on paper 3. Practice, practice, practice. Coming back to that part where I said, thinking, thinking, thinking. So if I'm going to practice, it means I'm going to perfect it, and it is going to result in permanency. It's going to stick, and I'm going to write the best paper 3 possible because it should ensure that I get a very good mark. Thank you for your presence today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the fact that I know you are going to practice for your paper 3. All of the best with the examinations. Thank you.